So as a disclaimer, I actually know Sneako personally. We've interviewed twice at this point. I like to say that I consider him a friend. So for added context, there's been this viral tweet by this guy named Rollo Tomosi, who's this father of the red pill, as he self-proclaims. He let a tweet explaining how to become a high-value male. And in one of the points, he's talking about how men in their 20s need to get a vasectomy. So this is what they're talking about. So let's see how Sneako starts pushing back against the red pill.
We saw Rollo said something yesterday on Twitter saying that men should get vasectomies in their 20s just to prevent this, which I completely disagree with. I think that it's important to have family values and to prepare for eventual parenthood. But that's the cope that a lot of men have. Like, why raise a family in this scenario? Why like risk having a child with somebody who's wanting to build an empire or wanting to be as famous as Rihanna when you could just play it safe and do the snip snip?
So it's an interesting point. So just like any movement, right, the red pill movement has a lot of hypocrisies. And I think the more extreme a movement gets, the more it cracks in hypocrisies that it starts to reveal. So a lot of the red pill like creators, right, they started preaching these things like, to become a high value male, you gotta fuck a lot of bitches, and marriages for chumps, and you have to have open marriages where you have 10 different girlfriends. But then at the same time, right, they're also preaching to women how, you know, women need to be loyal, how they need to be submissive. But for the average dude, how do they attract like another high quality woman that they can be in a relationship with if that's the kind of things that they're exercising, right? So I will assure you that there's a lot of women that if you start spewing a lot of these red pill ideologies, they'll be like, what the hell are you talking about? So with that being said, right, there's definitely some merit to a lot of the things that red pill people are saying, but when it becomes contradictory like that, you need to really examine it and ensure that if you're a consumer of this type of content, that you're exercising your own judgment and not becoming a bot that they're telling you not to be.
But I disagree with him completely. I want to know what you think about that. Rollo, like the godfather red pill, who's pretty much like created a lot of these ideologies, is saying like avoid having a family. I think that's complete cope. Like that's just that's when it becomes a black hole and really kind of black. Like
I think given them,
I agree. Yeah, because I have noticed this about a lot of these red pill creators. They kind of present like this persona of like they get a bunch of bitches and they put this persona of how like getting money and status is kind of like this ultimate pursuit. But I completely disagree, man. I think, you know, whether you want a family or not, relationships is the most important thing to life. And if you're 60 and you're a billionaire and you have no friends or family to kind of share that with, I don't think there's a sadder existence than that. And look, I'm not going to name any names, but I actually know of these multimillionaire dudes that are in their 40s and 50s, and it's lonely. Like you can see it in their eyes. It's lonely. I mean, they're hanging out with 24, 25-year-olds on a random Tuesday so they can be around people. It's sad. And I used to think that like money and status and building big businesses was kind of like the ultimate pursuit. But the older I got, I realized like at the end of the day, all that is great and all. And I think taking account, getting your finances in order and becoming the best version of yourself is still paramount. Without a family or anything to share that with, it's literally meaningless. Like, and I think that although maybe red pill movements can get someone who hasn't really dove into self-improvement to get off their ass and go to the gym and work on themselves, I think when it becomes extreme like that and they're telling young men to get a vasectomy, I don't think that's the right way to build a self-sustaining society, and especially men that are going to teach the next generation these types of ideals. Like, how are you going to do that, right? Are you just going to keep going on the internet and telling young men to get a vasectomy? I don't think that's the way to inspire the next generation.
Marketplace that we're in, it's a reasonable strategy.
Avoid family.
Well, here's the thing. The upsides are great, but the downsides will absolutely demolish you. I mean, you can look at the Tradcons right now that's going through. I mean, look at Steven Crowder right now, bro. So it's like, and I think that's why so many guys are going abroad, because at least there, like, the women value family more than here. I mean, a lot of the girls here said, I want a family, but if you notice, like, the things that they're working on isn't necessarily to be a better mom. So I think one or two you guys mentioned that.
I mean, you got to say the same thing for, let's say, Myron or Fresh in this case, or like the other co-hosts, right? If you're going to be like preaching these types of things, are you becoming like the high quality dad that these types of girls that want to settle into a family would want to be with? I don't know. I mean, I don't know them personally, but
not many of you. Most of you guys were prioritizing your career and your education, your own self-improvement, which is great. That's fantastic. But that's more of a masculine thing. Like, you got to ask yourself, is the guy that you want, is he going to want that back in return? Is he going to want another him? I mean, would you guys, what if I lined up a bunch of dudes here And I said, what are y'all going to do to get the wife of your dreams? And they all said, oh, well, I'm getting manicures. I'm buying really nice designer. I'm getting dressed up really well. I'm doing my eyebrows. I'm getting haircuts every week. Would y'all take those guys seriously?
No.
Probably not, right? Because the things they're working on only benefit them, not necessarily you, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of how you got to look at it from the male perspective. Like, it's great that you guys are working on your money and everything, but it doesn't really benefit us as men. Some of the girls here are foreign, but they still have fairly Western values, right? If we went to Romania or something like that, when we were there, like, girls aren't going to say, oh yeah, my career and making money. They're like, fuck that shit, I want to be home.
But
yeah, I think that's true. I think there's definitely cultural and societal influences where maybe women in those types of countries will definitely prioritize more family. And I think a big part of that is that cultural or traditions. But then there's also things like there's less economic options for women to be able to work in those countries, right? I think it's undoubtedly that, let's say, America has more opportunities for both men and women when it comes to certain career fields than, let's say, Romania. So there's also limitations that women have when it comes to that.
The obsession, well, like the reason he said that is like how to become a high value man. The obsession with becoming high status and having other people admire you instead of reach your peak happiness, which is having a family. That's where it becomes kind of bleak. Like, what makes you high value? Other people's perception, having a lot of money, having a network. Like, why does that matter? Why does being a high value man matter if you're not going to eventually start a family?
Because
that's true, right? Because at the end of the day, like what all of us are trying to do in some way, in some part, and you know, some people may not make the choice to, is that we want to leave a legacy, right? And usually that's in the form of like a family or passing it on to your next generation. Some people don't want that, and that's completely fine. But I guess like if you're gonna build up a lot of this value, essentially what you want to be able to do is pass it on to someone. I think a lot of the red pill is preaching at this point, and especially with Rollo's tweet saying get a vasectomy, is deprioritizing building a family, deprioritizing taking certain risks like marriage, because yes, marriage is absolutely scary, especially for a lot of men, right? There's 50% of divorces, and a lot of family courts definitely do not favor men. So I understand there's a lot of risks, but shouldn't a high value man be willing to take those risks with the right woman? Like, why did you have to take such extreme measures? What I'm guessing too is that he's promoting vasectomies so men can stay on their purpose and not get distracted by women. But shouldn't like the marker of a high value man too, to be disciplined on your own, is that still have temptations in their face but ignore it and to stay focused on their own, right? Shouldn't that be more of a marker of a high value male instead of chopping off your dick?
Let's look at all the girls here. They're all propping themselves up to be that high value man. That's why.
Just
and we're calling that bleak, and we're calling that out and saying it's empty. So why are we advocating for the same thing on the other side?
Because it's not going to change, bro. Feminism is here and it's not going anywhere. Like, women will not concede whatsoever. Like, they're going to continue to make money. They're going to continue to gain status. They're going to continue to, you know, go up the ranks. Women are going to out-earn men in the next 20 years. I predict it. They're dominating men when it comes to college
being
graduation.
Bleak about it is kind of a waste, because we've seen some like.
That's a good point. Look, I think no matter what you think about, I think his name is Myron or Fit. It's part of the Fresh and Fit podcast. No matter what your opinion about him, he's definitely like a smart and articulate guy. I definitely do not agree with all of his beliefs, but he's definitely smart. But you can tell here that he's kind of, I don't know if he like truly believes it or he's trying to kind of save face for Rollo Tomassi, which seems to be like a big idol for him as the godfather of the red pill. But also props to Sneako, man. I think no matter what you think about him, also that guy like always is changing his opinions. And you know, some people might call him a grifter in that sense, but no, I think a good way to look at it is that he's constantly opening his mind to be able to change his opinions, right? He's always experiencing new things to be able to have different perspectives. Look, I definitely do not agree with a lot of the things that he says as well, but I definitely respect him for that in the sense that he's able to look at both sides. You know, over the past year, he may have leaned a little bit more to the extremes, but it's also cool to see now how he's starting to kind of form his own independent thoughts. Not that he hasn't been, but I think we're starting to see a bit of the old Sneako back.
I think your answer is exactly what I saw girls in Eastern Europe doing, trying to get closer to God, working on their health, working on making sure they're emotionally mature. That's what Eastern European women are doing. So it's not like you can't just put a blanket over all the women here and say, give up and cut off your fucking balls from your dick so that
No, I get that. I'm all for families, man. I've always said it. The nuclear family is the backbone of any thriving society. However, when half the equation of having a nuclear family doesn't necessarily prioritize a nuclear family, as a man, you got to make some adaptations, because if you do
Sure, right? I mean, just like in any sort of two groups are linked together, one group's reaction is based on another group's action, right? So if men start acting a certain way, women are going to react in a certain way. And if it's vice versa, right? If women act in a certain way, men are going to start reacting and changing their habits and such. That's why we've seen different sorts of gender roles evolve as society has progressed. So with that being said, right, I think that's a very extreme reaction to an action in the sense that just because I guess, you know, maybe many women aren't having as kids or prioritizing family, maybe they're prioritizing more work, that doesn't mean that you should cut your goddamn nuts off or your supply off. You know what I mean?
Make a nuclear family with someone that isn't as interested in making a nuclear family with you, and they're, how do I say this? They're rewarded for leaving that nuclear family through divorce courts, alimony, etc. As a guy, you got to kind of reassess how you want to move. So I'm saying families are fantastic, but it's a very dangerous proposition in the West, in the United States. That's my thing. But I'm all for families, though. I am, trust me. Come from a two-parent household. I would probably be a fucked up idiot if I didn't come from a two-parent household. But
a side comment here, but I think one of the biggest advantages that a person can have, and a lot of research backs this up, is having a two-parent household, right? I gotta say, I'm very fortunate to have a mom and dad that is still together. And I think being able to see that as an example has definitely helped me in life, right? Not only when it comes to like financial stability, but emotional stability. So there is definitely a huge advantage there. I think if someone is going to understand the value of that, as Myron is saying, right, then how can you kind of maybe advocate for a procedure that, yes, it can be reversed, but there definitely are instances where that can't be reversed, or it's not really meant to be reversed, right? Vasectomies, I think, are usually for maybe older men after they have a few kids, right, and they don't want to have any more. I don't think men in their 20s should be getting something like that, especially if they want kids in the future.
My parents from the Middle East, they have different culture values. You know, religion is a thing. Here, religion isn't that big. Feminism is here. Women prioritize careers, just seen through and all these girls are young too. That's the crazy part. Yeah, they're all young.
Young panel.
You know what I mean? So
what's your take on this? I want to hear Fresh and Fit's take on this. There's 15,000 men watching for the most part. Should men in their 20s get a vasectomy?
Personally, I would say, looking at it from a holistic standpoint, I get what Rolo's saying for the whole topic itself of being high value, because once again, if you get a woman pregnant that's not there for you, she could be against you and it could turn into many different things. But personally, like I was saying earlier, for me, I do want a family. If I meet the right woman, I think is going to raise that child. But for most men, do they have the, I want to say, resources to find a woman that they want of their dreams, or even get the right woman? Probably not. So to be safe, vasectomy might be in their best interest.
So yes.
No, I'm saying, okay, so
it's a yes or no.
It depends on the individual.
Yeah, see, there's a lot of tiptoeing, right? Like, I've seen a couple of like Fresh and Fit like clips, and they're always kind of like pressing women whenever they ask them a question, right? Then they actually like to say like yes or no, and when women start kind of like tiptoeing around the answer to the question. But they're kind of doing the same thing to like the question that Sneako's asking. Like, what do they actually think about this? Like, are they just saying this so they kind of tiptoe and not offend Rolo, one of their role models, or what's going on here?
That's what I'm saying. So it's up to the man to decide for himself. But I'm just saying, generally for me, I think family is very important. But I understand why most men might not want that, because finding a woman that's actually good for you may be kind of hard. So I get
a little bit.
In America specifically.
In America, yeah.
In America, to be specific.
What do you think?
Let's get the ladies' takes on it, and then I'll give my opinion, because I don't want to corrupt them with my take.
Okay.
All right, ladies.
Was that a dodge? I don't know.
Let's make this a little bit more engaging. Let's say you have a son. He's 21 years old. Building up a business, whatever it may be, is becoming somewhat successful. Actually, you know what? Let's say 30 years old, because let's be honest, 21-year-old guy's fucking useless. He ain't doing nothing with life. So 30-year-old guy, building up a business, he's on his way to becoming successful. Should he have a vasectomy, knowing how women move nowadays and how girls can trap guys? Should he have a vasectomy? We could start on the couch and then work our way.
Right, but his take, Rolo's take was that to be a high-value man, the top 3 steps: avoid family creation, get a vasectomy, and have a network. It's just like the generic male self-improvement stuff, but like 2 of the top 3: get a vasectomy and avoid family creation. Do you agree?
Did he say avoid? I don't think he said avoid.
Word for word, avoid family creation.
It's on Twitter.
Top 3 steps to become a high-value man.
Okay, I didn't see this tweet. I'll have to take a look at it. But I mean, here's the thing. I think what he means by that is being the most. When he says high value man, he's talking from the perspective of being able to be a playboy and get as many girls.
But why is that a priority over having a family? Like, why would that even be advice? Why would that be a male self-improvement advice? Be a playboy instead of raise a family.
Well,
we
That too, right? I think a lot of these self-improvements, kind of like the core message that they're telling young men is to become from boys to real high-value men, right? But in that instance, if they're advocating kind of like a playboy lifestyle until your 50s and 60s and forever, is that really, are they inspiring boys to become men? Like, I feel like that's just taking them down like a lonelier path, in the sense that, look, there are absolutely some people that are definitely happy and never wanted kids and are completely convicted of that. But if you're going to be continuing to advocate for a lifestyle that maybe some men don't really want, but in this influential age, they think that this is kind of like the only way to become a high value man and, you know, starve off women forever. I don't know how that's going to contribute to like the gender dynamics that they say is kind of ripping apart society at the moment. Wouldn't that just make it worse?
Make fun of women all days for wanting to be girl boss queens and sleep around and have all this, and then you tell guys, be a playboy instead of raise a family. That's the same advice on the other side.
Damn, it's crazy. I mean, Sneako's like, yeah, he's spitting facts, and you can kind of see Myron looks like nervous based on how he's like shifting around in the table.
Here's the thing: when you're a playboy, you're going to be better at raising the family, and the reason.
But he's saying
that,
avoid family creation.
Well, he's saying to be a high value. He's talking from the frame, knowing Rolo, because I know him personally. He's talking from the frame of being a guy getting a lot of girls, and then if you decide you want to get a family down the road, you can always unsnip and then go ahead and go down the family route. But in today's day and age, I agree to a degree that you need to have sex with at least 50 girls as a guy. I've talked about that all the time. It's controversial, but the reason why I say that is because most women are more promiscuous than most guys. So if you're a dude and you're getting out here and dating girls and you get your pee-pee wet with the first girl, she could sell you a dream and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is great. So guys got to get out there and be sexually experienced. So he's talking from the frame of you know, being attractive.
I think most guys out here are not going to be able to control their sexual urges. So he's saying as a
dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Wait, so again, right, like I was saying earlier, if they can't control their sexual urges, shouldn't that be something that they work on through discipline, like a lot of these ideals that they're kind of preaching? If you're going to just take, I guess, like the easy way out and just take off the supply, how is that going to benefit you as like a man or any sort of person, right? If you're going to always take the easy way route, there's no way you're going to ever learn or become like this ideal man, especially if you're going to just take the shortcut. Shouldn't you be building discipline so you're not out there fucking every hoe out there? I don't know.
Biggest path to becoming a high-value man. Do not get married. Avoid family creation. Vasectomy in your 20s. Live consistently. Eliminate all sedations. Learn game and networking. Play to your strengths. Build wealth. Resist easing up on your focus. He's talking about building, increasing your value when you're young.
becoming successful. Yeah.
Becoming successful. Yeah.
Avoid family creation and get a vasectomy.
Yeah, because
So I think a part of it too is that how do you also expect to be someone who shows up in a relationship if you've never really had experience in it, right? Just like kind of how Myron is preaching that you should have at least sex with 50 girls before you get married or whatever. Just how, you know, I think what he's trying to say is that you should build up sexual experience and understand female nature. How are you going to understand relationship dynamics when you are with a girl that you actually want to spend the rest of your life with? Shouldn't that be something that they're also building experience in instead of just chopping off your dick and not prioritizing family creation? I mean, why else would you be talking to the opposite sex, right? I mean, of course, right? The easy answer is just for sex, but what if you actually do meet a girl that you genuinely like and like having conversations with?
Yeah, dude, because your value doesn't go up until you're built something, and that's typically going to be in your 30s.
So most guys,
That's what he's saying.
What do they focus on? Girls the whole time. He's saying at this point in your career, when you're on the way up, focus on things that are going to help you move forward in life and become successful.
And get a surgery done that prevents you from having children.
Yeah, but you can always reverse it.
That's not like a lot of the times that shit messes up. That's not something you could just like hope that it's going to be okay.
Generally, most men can't control their urges, so what's going to happen is they're going to go fuck around and get somebody pregnant.
This is how you rise up the path to become high status, because you're eliminating all variables that can fuck you up.
Yeah, it's about
That's what he's saying.
Risk mitigation right there.
How many dudes do you know that could have made it to the NBA or could have been a star and an athlete or something that got some chick pregnant?
Yeah.
Like kids a lot of the times ruin dudes' futures because they have kids prematurely.
Okay, that is an extremely small statistic and already a small statistic. To be able to make it to the NBA where there's 450 roster spots at a time and millions of basketball players all over the world, that plus a basketball player that was going to make that 450th roster spot but wasn't able to because they had a kid, that's probably talking about only a handful of individuals. I mean, throughout the history of basketball. I mean, who knows, right? I don't know the exact statistic, but at least I don't know anyone like that. Maybe they do. Who knows?
So he's saying this is the path to becoming a high-value man. And then once you become that guy,
reverse the vasectomy.
Reverse the vasectomy.
Yeah.
Do you think that's good advice? I mean, that's good advice if your qualifications of a high-value man is a guy with a big body count. But in my opinion, like I thought
No. He's talking about increasing your value as a man. You're basically what he's doing is he's retard proofing it.
Yeah.
If you have vasectomy and you bust nuts at girls, you're not gonna have a kid, so you're not gonna fuck up your future when you're young and you're not in a position to raise that child. That's what he's saying.
We all know what is men's biggest weakness: women. And as a result, what happens is, what's another factor for not having success? Having a kid too early. That's reality.
That's the number one wealth killer, dude.
Yeah,
Kids. If
having
you really
kids.
look at it, it's the number one wealth killer. I'm again.
Now,
Perhaps, and it could also be like your biggest motivator too, but it obviously depends on the person and kind of like your ambitions as well. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they say that the man's biggest weakness is a woman, so shouldn't you be able to build up the skills to be able to deal with like your weaknesses? I don't think risk mitigation, the fact of a vasectomy, is going to in any way contribute in your path to becoming this idealized high value man.
once again, we support families.
Yeah, we do.
But at the same time,
Do you? I mean, doesn't really seem like it, but look, I don't know.
but what he's saying to become successful
you
at a young
can't
age,
say that you support families and also tell your audience to get a vasectomy.
Facts.
we didn't say that. We just said we're
You're toting the fence about
We're
it.
explaining why he said that.
Do you agree?
I understand why he said it.
You see how you're ducking? You see how you're ducking the it's a simple
But
question.
it's on me. It's not about me. It's about the generational.
I'm asking your opinion.
No.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like these guys are always pressing these girls. That's literally like the entire concept of the show is challenging girls and showcasing kind of female delusion. But at this point, like these guys are kind of like dodging their opinions to like the question. I don't know. And I think maybe part of it is because they really look up to this like role model. But come on, like I don't think there is a least form of respect than sucking up to someone and just agreeing with them because you look up to them. I think a better form of respect is actually challenging their beliefs and sharing your own opinions. I mean, you guys may have even personal experience too. Anyone who like sucks up to you, it's very, very hard to respect them. But I'll just end it here, man. Good on Sneako, man. Love how he's always kind of challenging his mind, man, and changing his opinion. So yeah, we might have to do another interview in the future. We'll see if schedules line up. Yeah, maybe you have to get that one in. But anyways, if you guys like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to check out more of the main channel stuff, then links in the description. Thank you.